My prison journey timeline. So I got involved in illegal real estate deals in 2005, and by 2007, I was under federal investigation. I was under investigation for years. I didn't even get indicted until 2011. When they indicted me, because I hadn't already pled guilty, they superseded the indictment and included my husband and charged him on a conspiracy. I planned to go to trial. Again, I fought and fought. We lost everything, ended up going bankrupt, and I planned to go to trial in 2014. Now, we were at the courthouse 3 weeks before trial at a hearing, and in the courtroom next to ours, a man was shot, which is pretty unusual at a courthouse. And the next day, I was taken into custody. They revoked my pretrial release and said, if she doesn't plead guilty, we're going to make her fight from a jail cell. They gave me a week to think about it, and while I was in jail, I pretty much had a full-on mental breakdown with all the stress and everything else that had been going on for years. My husband picked me up a week later, and I still planned to go to trial, and when I went and met with my attorneys could see that I couldn't even speak. I was so shook up. So the government and my attorneys came together and decided, let's give Portia a mental evaluation, but let's not just have a local psychiatrist do it. Let's put her back in jail, which they did. They held a hearing and didn't kind of tell us why we had to be there. And when we got there, they just took me out of the courtroom. My husband had no idea where they took me. And they took me to a county jail in Utah, where I was completely traumatized. I spent 11 days in a jail cell, a lot of it without clothing, and wasn't allowed out to get a shower. My husband came on video. They let me do a video visit with me, and I was so shook up I didn't even know my name. It was pretty traumatic. 11 days later, they had the U.S. Marshals come pick me up, chain me and shackle me, put me in a white suit, and put me on an airplane in California called Conair with a bunch of other inmates. And I had no idea why I was even there or what was happening. I was like, is there a cell phone? Could I call my husband? I remember passing out and waking up in an ambulance, and that happened after the plane landed. I was so dehydrated, and then I was taken to a detention center in Pahrump, Nevada, where I was also held for about a week. And then they put me back on a plane and sent me to Seattle SeaTac, which is a detention center, and they have a forensic psychologist that could do a mental evaluation. I was deemed competent to stand trial. The psychiatrist said it was just trauma, that I had had this mental breakdown. They sent me back to Pahrump for another 3 weeks, and finally back to the same county jail. Now, by this time, I was so shook up, it had been about 3 months, that I agreed to plead guilty if they would just let me out. So I pled guilty. And 6 months later, I was sentenced to the maximum, which was 7 years in federal prison. I was given 8 weeks, and then my husband drove me to Dublin, California. I spent a year